There's nothing quite as loyal as a dog. They really are something special. And if you didn't believe that before, today's story might just change your mind. Why does this dog show up for Mass every single day? The answer is both surprising and incredibly sad. In a quiet little town just outside Brindisi, Italy, there's a small church that holds daily Mass. That's not unusual. Lots of small Italian towns still have regular services with faithful locals attending. But what is unusual is a dog who shows up every day without fail. He comes in, sits quietly through the entire service, and leaves just as quietly when it's over. No fuss, no barking, just calm, quiet presence. This has been happening in San Donasi for months now. A German Shepherd has become a regular, and people have definitely noticed. It's not every day you see a dog at Mass, especially not one coming all on his own. And every time he comes, he looks so sad, like he's carrying something heavy on his heart. Father Donato Panna, the priest at the church, says the congregation doesn't mind the dog at all. He's respectful, stays silent, and just watches from the front pew. But people are starting to wonder, what is it that he's looking at? He always stares at the same spot near the altar. Some have even joked, a little nervously, that maybe he sees spirits. But Father Panna, who recently lost his own dog and loves animals deeply, believes it's something else. He sees pain in this dog's eyes. The dog looked familiar, but the priest couldn't figure out why. It was clear he didn't have a home. He was dirty, a bit thin, clearly on his own. Was he just looking for warmth, for safety? Maybe he was asking for help in the only way he could. Father Panna couldn't shake the feeling that this dog needed someone. So after one Mass, he asked some local teens to help out. As the dog started to head out, they coaxed him gently with a few treats. Then, with a bit of hesitation, they gave him a bath. You never know how a dog might react, but this one was calm, letting them wash and dry him. He even seemed to enjoy the care. Once he was clean, they gave him a good meal. He was definitely underweight, but now more than ever, Father Panna felt certain he had seen this dog before. He still couldn't figure out exactly where he'd seen the dog before. The face was familiar, but the memory just wouldn't come. For now, though, the mystery would have to wait. This pup needed help. Maybe he was in pain, and no one had noticed. So Father Panna decided the next step was a trip to the vet. They gently put a leash on the dog, and surprisingly, he didn't mind at all. He calmly walked alongside the priest through town to the vet's office. Once there, the vet gave him a full checkup. Thankfully, he was perfectly healthy. They also checked for a microchip, hoping to find his owner, but there wasn't one. Just another dead end. At least now he was clean, fed, and safe. But still, the question lingered. Why did he come to Mass every day? Where had he come from? Feeling a little disappointed, Father Panna started walking the dog back to the church. As they passed a few local shops, a small boy ran out and began petting the dog excitedly. He even hugged him and called him Tommy. That made Panna stop in his tracks. He asked the boy why he used that name. The child looked a bit puzzled, but answered simply, "Because that is his name." He went on to explain that everyone in the neighborhood knew this dog. His name was Tommy, and he used to belong to an older woman named Maria Locci. At that moment, it clicked. Of course. Now Panna remembered he had seen Tommy many times walking beside Maria. The dog looked a little skinnier now, and when he first arrived at the church, he was so dirty it had been hard to recognize him. But there was no doubt anymore. This was Maria's dog. Maria had always been gentle and kind. She was known for rescuing animals over the years, but Tommy was special to her. She had found him in rough shape when he was just a puppy, abandoned out in the fields near her home. He was so sick back then that no one thought he'd make it. But Maria never gave up. She nursed him back to health and gave him the love and safety he'd never had before. From then on, they were inseparable. Whenever Maria went to town, Tommy was right beside her. Even when she came to church, he'd wait patiently outside until she came back out. So why was he coming inside now? Why wasn't he with her? The answer hit hard. Maria had passed away a few months earlier. She hadn't had any family nearby, and after she died, it seemed no one had taken Tommy in. He must have gone back to fending for himself, wandering the streets, except for his daily visits to Mass. Wanting to be sure, Father Pana went to Maria's old home. It was on the edge of town, and it was clearly abandoned now. The grass was tall, and the garden she once kept so neatly was now full of weeds. But as they got closer, Tommy perked up. He bolted toward the yard, squeezing through a hole in the fence. Then he went straight to the porch and curled up on an old dog bed like it was the most natural thing in the world. This was home for him. Even if it was empty, this was still where his heart lived. When it was time to leave, Tommy wouldn't budge. He wasn't ready to go. Knowing he'd see Tommy back at Mass the next day, Father Pana left him resting peacefully on the porch. He had a strong feeling he finally understood what was going on, but he needed to be sure. So he went back to the church, set out some fresh food, water, and even laid down a soft blanket for Tommy in case he returned before morning. Then he headed to the office to check the security camera footage. He started with the most recent videos, then scrolled back to a few months earlier. What he discovered left him completely speechless. He pulled up the footage from the day of Maria's funeral. At the time, he hadn't noticed, but right there in the video was Tommy, quietly walking behind the funeral procession, following his best friend one last time. When the casket was brought into the church, Tommy entered too. He walked slowly, almost like he understood what was happening. Then he lay down right beside the casket, and he stayed there, silently, for the entire service. That spot, right in front of the altar, that's where he now returned every single day. Going even further back, Father Pana watched the older footage from when Maria was still alive. Every day she came to Mass, she'd gently tell Tommy to wait outside. He'd sit by the door, watching until she found her seat. Once she was settled in her usual spot, he'd go lie down outside to wait. That's when something really clicked. The spot Tommy kept watching every day now, the one he sat facing in front of the altar, was the exact place Maria always sat. He wasn't just showing up randomly. He was sitting in front of the place where he last saw her, still waiting, still hoping she'd come back. It was heartbreakingly beautiful. He had lost the one person who meant everything to him, and yet he stayed loyal to her, coming back every day. That kind of love and devotion didn't go unnoticed. In fact, it touched the hearts of everyone in town. Over time, the community came together to make sure Tommy would never be alone. The kids played with him. The local butcher gave him scraps. Shopkeepers made sure he had water on hot days and a warm place when it got cold. He might not have Maria anymore, but thanks to the kindness of everyone around him, Tommy now belonged to the whole town. It was exactly what Maria would have wanted, for her beloved dog to be safe, loved, and never forgotten. Do you think your dog would miss you this much if you were gone? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves dogs as much as you do. See you next time for another heartwarming story.